Hello, friends, and a very warm welcome. Thank you all for joining us today at this webinar. I know that many of you all have joined us from Europe, Africa, various parts of Asia, and some from the Americas as well. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. It's been a while since we've conducted a webinar, and we are really happy with the response that we've got this time to have so many of you join us once again. Today's webinar is being conducted along with DuPont. So just a quick overview before we begin. Firstly, hi, I'm Vinel. I lead marketing communications at Renewsys. And this webinar series has been an outreach effort that we began around the time that lockdowns began in several countries. So we could stay connected and also build on our technical knowledge. And Renewsys, as many of you are aware, is the first integrated manufacturer of solar PV modules and its key components, that is encapsulants, backsheets, and solar PV cells. And so Renewsys is uniquely poised to understand how these components interact with each other and the panels and how they perform in field, which gives us an advantage and an edge which we would like to share with you all in terms of module performance through this webinar series. And today we've tied up with DuPont, who are leaders in their own right in photovoltaic technology. From both organizations, we have senior representatives joining us. To begin with, I would like to introduce Rahul, Mr. Rahul Khatri from DuPont. He's the technical leader there, and he basically leads endeavors for South Asia and the Middle East for various photovoltaic solutions. He's been working with the PV industry since 2008 and has held various roles across R&D, manufacturing, application development, as well as technical marketing, and has extensive knowledge of solar panels and materials. So welcome, Rahul. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Vinil.
We also have Mr. Shivkumar Lakshman, who heads module sales for Renewsys. He will be answering various queries that we have on the techno-commercial front. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Shivkumar Lakshman.
Thank you, Vinay.
And lastly, our first speaker for today, Mr. Ashish Kumar Singh. He heads process and materials technology at Renewsys. He is a physicist and a material scientist with over 12 years of experience in various fields of research and development, with a keen focus on encapsulant and backsheet development for the PV industry. Like I mentioned earlier, Renewsys is an integrated manufacturer. We manufacture encapsulant backsheet, solar cells, as well as the module. And Ashish will be bringing his unique perspective to this conversation. And so Ashish, welcome. We're really happy to have you with us. So we've chosen floating solar specifically because solar's potential, I think all of us agree, is almost limitless. But land is beginning to get scarce, and therefore floating solar has emerged over the past 3 or 4 years as an avenue that is both effective, because there are a lot of man-made reservoirs that we can access, and cost competitive because of the way technology is shaping up. So I would like to invite Ashish to take us through this first half of the webinar. Ashish, can you hear us? I think having a little difficulty hearing us. Ashish, if you could just unmute yourself, please. Yeah, hi, Ashish.
Yeah, Vinay. Yeah, I can.
Hi, thanks. If you can just begin. We're all eager to explore this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinal. Thanks for your wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. As Vinal has already given a wonderful introduction about the topic and the speakers, so I will take a direct dive into the subject. So today, as already Vinal has spoke that we are going to discuss on the floating PV, and the main objective of the discussion is to understand what is the floating PV technology and why it's becoming so important in today's scenario. And we'll also understand the different parts of the floating PV plants. And since it is a new technology, it's still it's a lots of things we have to learn and go ahead in the coming future. So we have to look at that. What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages in the sense what challenges are there? We'll see that. Then we'll move on further. The key discussion that will be which kind of module is suitable for a floating solar, and what are the basic logic or the technical explanation behind selecting such kind of module for a floating application. And then we will see a basic comparison between a few glass to glass and glass to backsheet modules. And then after that, it will be handed over to Rahul for on the backsheet front. So this is all about Renewisys. As Vinal already told that we are an integrated manufacturer of solar PV modules along with cells and encapsulant and backsheet. So everyone will be knowing about that. Now, now we start with the topic. So as we have already understood that this topic is a floating solar. So what is generally called floating PV? You many may be knowing this, but just I want to make it once again for everyone. So floating photovoltaic is like same as what we say a photovoltaic technology where we expose the sunlight to the solar panels and we get electricity generation from that. So the concept is same. The only change is what the environment of the module where we install it. Like in ground mounted or rooftop, we install the module on a particular structure and that is fixed on a particular land or particular building structure. But here the structure is changed and environment is changed. Here the solar panels are get installed over a plastic float which generally float on the water body, and all panels get connected via string and everything get connected together to make a plant. And whole plant get anchored to the water body source by using mooring lines or mooring wires. This is what called the floating photovoltaic, and it gives power generation as usually solar panel gives for the electricity for the normal modules. So in a nutshell, the difference is only the environment as well as the body on which module get installed, and that is what is the challenging factor for the photovoltaics, floating photovoltaics. So the next question arises like why now it becoming so critical and so important. So we can see that we are now in 2020 and still we can see that lots of area where there is no electrification at all, like some rural areas, some coastal areas, some islands where still there is no power. It means that so advanced we come across, but still there is a scarcity of power, and this means we need to generate a more power. Whatever power generation we are doing still is less than our demand. So by getting the more demand, then we have to go for a more power generation. And if looking at renewable, which is the main future for the world, in that case, photovoltaic is the key technology. So if looking at photovoltaic, if we need to install more power plants, we need to have a more land, and the Earth area is limited. So like we have a given resource on Earth, like land, like water bodies. So why not we can utilize our resources and to get better from that, so that society and world can get benefit from that. So this is what is the logic for floating PV, where the experts understand that the water bodies can be utilized to generate the power, and possibly that can go up to terawatt level of capacity. This is what is the potential for floating PV. So this is what we are looking to have a floating solar in coming future is the need for the floating solar. So we can see that there are several type of floating bodies we have. Like we have lakes. Everyone knowing that in the every city, every place there are some lakes, And we have the ponds as well as man-made reservoirs where like hydropower plants as well as the ocean. So these are the typical kind of water body where the floating solar can be deployed and we can generate power from there. And now we'll move on like what kind of floating plants and what are their outlines. So as I told already that the basic difference is only the environment and the structure of the installation. Rest your panel, your concept, your principle remains same. So like we can see in the diagram, like we have already a like central inverter that is connected to a complete PV power plant array. And then this inverter is connected to transmission lines. So the challenge is like that we have the whole module is floating on a particular float. And those floats are kind of a plastic material and they have the capacity to sustain the pressure as well as whatever turbulence or wind or any kind of thing happen in the water, they are going to sustain that. And the whole things float over the water. And there will be connecting mooring lines. You can see in the pictures like there are few lines, mooring lines, and they get anchored to the shore of the water body. This is the whole concept. And this happens like we have like ships in water, either certain project running on the water, we do anchoring for them. Similar anchoring is there. Definitely we have to learn more and we have to do more better thing for anchoring. And if you look at the component of the plant, let's just distinguishing each component. So the key component is the float that is made of especially kind of SDP kind of polymer. And those floats are they are resistant to corrosion or moisture as well as the UV. So this material is quite resistant for the environmental issues that is especially happens at the water body. So these floats are bulky floats. They generally manufactured by a blown process where the polymer get blown in the form of a float, and those floats get assembled in the water body. And then the module, which is the another component that gets fixed on those floats, and then the complete array gets a complete floating cables that will be connecting all arrays and coming out. And the whole system get connected by mooring and anchoring devices to have a proper stability of the plant in the water. And finally, the complete output goes in an inverter, and from inverter it goes to the transmission lines, either we can say grids. This is what a complete structure of the power plants. And I think this is the same way we do for ground mounted also, where we have a structure and here we have a float. This is what is the basic difference between ground mounted and floating solar. And going ahead, we will see further like what are the benefits and challenges if we are working for floating solar. So this is a typical diagram. So as we know that the water bodies will have a cool breeze, and that will give an advantage to a solar panel to have a lower operating temperature, and that will generally give the higher generation of the power. That is one key advantage. A second is that the ease of deployment and erection. So these power plants erection and deployment is quite easy. It does not look for lots of cement work and all those things. It's just assembling the outside the float and deploying on the water and then doing anchoring by mooring lines. So this is not very time taking or tedious, but it is quite easy. And definitely it does not need the land. So it is quite good for the society that we can utilize the water body. And the key challenge is like, what we can say that since it is a very new technology and not very mature, so definitely we'll have a challenges. The main challenge is the maintenance and the long-term durability. So we have yet to see the durability of those plants, how long they can sustain and how long they can go. This is what the basic challenge from this floating solar. So if you look at the advantage part, like where we can say that the floats are recyclable. So whenever we have any change, the floats can be recycled and can be used. This kind of sustainable source and higher generation of the power. And the third is the ease of erection and deployment. Those are the key advantages of floating solar against a normal ground mounted. So and if you look at consider the points which we should consider for floating solar, like the environment, which is really corrosive and humid, And then we can look for especially the waves and tides, which generally makes whole array as unstable, and it can damage the whole power plant by if they can break the whole system. So these are the key challenges, and these things we have to consider when we are looking for floating solar. And the anchoring design and variation of water level are the key challenges. So there should be a proper, synchronization between anchoring and water level, so that the stability of the float should be remain same. And working on the water is definitely challenging. So these are the basic about the floating solar, and how they are important, and what are their components, and what we should consider when we are looking for floating solar. Now we looked at how much capacity worldwide, either in India, how this trend is going on. So let us look at the Indian trend. So we can see that in India we have approximately till 2018 cumulative installation of 1.2 gigawatt. And if you look at the plot, it looks like exponential plot. So in a positive sign, we can say that we have looking future as exponential growth for this trend. This is what is good for our country and for us. And this is for a global share of floating solar, where we can say China is leading on that, and it shares a maximum market on that. So this is a table where we can understand that how many water bodies has been considered for this calculation. So we have like continents: Asia, Africa, Europe, and till South America, and number of water body assessed. And if you consider the area of these water bodies, and if you look at 10% area, if you cover with the floating solar, then we have approximately 4 terawatt level of scale. So it means that if we consider only 10% area of the floating solar, water bodies, then definitely we have a huge power generation, and covering 10% is definitely not going to reach the ecosystem of the water. So maybe we can cover more. This is what is the potential for floating solar. And these are the current pipelines in India, where we have those the development of floating over the world. So definitely India, you can see that we are one of the key country for this development, and many people are eyeing on us to grow on that. So coming on the key point, which is about the solar module selection for the floating solar. So generally, if you look at the technology of cell, so crystalline silicon monofacial cells are the key for the floating solar. And if you look at that module, then there are two kinds of module used in the floating solar. The one people glass to glass, where one side is glass, both sides is glass, and the encapsulant and cells are between the glass. And other technology is glass to backsheet, where the front glass and backsheet encapsulate the whole solar cells. So these technology has been used for floating solar, but being Renewisys, we have done our own analysis and our own understandings. And what we found generally that the glass to backsheet module having one glass which is having a very high strength tempered glass and a good quality suitable backsheet makes it very much stable as compared to glass. And we understand that in our way that the glass to backsheet is the best solution for floating as compared to glass. And these are our maps where we can see that. So if you consider glass to glass and glass to backsheet, so the key differentiator are like the weight, where glass to backsheet has a very less weight, and it will give much stability, and it's easy to clean, because in glass to glass, if you have to clean, there is a chance of putting stress, and definitely a glass tends to bow if there is no frame. And in energy generation point of view, glass to backsheet is very clear because it has a little cooler effect than the glass to glass. And the glass to glass has certain advantage over mechanical properties, but generally it is not much needed for the floating solar. And the key worry point where everyone thinks that the floating means that is the humidity and moisture, and that will be a dangerous part. But generally, in the coming slide when Rahul will explain, there is a very simple that the humidity of water bodies are definitely 10 to 15% more than the normal areas, but the temperature is lower. If temperature is less, then definitely the polymers used in the modules, they are not going to give much expansion in the molecules, and the pores will be not very expanded to allow moisture to go inside. So there is a trade-off between temperature and RH for the moisture to ingress inside the module. So in that sense, as per our understanding and analysis, we found that glass tube backsheet at the working condition of floating water body is better with respect to and sufficient with respect to humidity and temperature. And definitely UV receptor are much better in the backseat. This is what we understood, that the glass to backseat is the key for solar. So glass to glass may have an edge, but it is not really needed under that way. So now I will hand over this to Rahul, and he will take forward on the next slides. Yeah, Rahul, please
thank
go
you,
ahead.
Ashish. I will just, I will start projecting my screen. Give me a minute.
In the meanwhile, friends, please feel free to send us your questions. Please type them in the Q&A section. And once we are done with the second half of this presentation, our facilitators will address both of them together.
Vinil, quick check. Can you see my my laptop screen?
Yes, Rahul.
And you can hear me well?
Yes, yes. Please carry on.
Okay. So thank you, Ashish. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Rahul, and Vinil has already given my introduction. So I will just start from where Ashish left. In fact, Ashish gave a pretty good overview of the floating PV application and covered almost every aspect that is critical for the development of this particular application. So I will start from where Ashish left and share more data on the two module structures in terms of glass and glass backsheet, and also will share our views on which technology is better suited for this application. So I will start with a brief introduction about DuPont. So DuPont, as some of you would know, is present in PV space for more than 35 years. Sorry, and key business is supply of materials for cell and models manufacturers. So besides engaging with the upstream, given our experience in this field, we also actively engage with the downstream value chain. And some of the key activities include doing field performance analysis of PV modules, and based on that we do share a lot of learnings in terms of how as a developer you can select a good quality module. And field studies, I think we all know, is important because they enable more realistic evaluation of model performance and risks that are involved. And in fact, I'll be sharing some data from various field studies, including what we have done to support our point of view. So Ashish also shared, a comparison of the BOM of two different structures in terms of glass and glass backsheet. I will just share slightly more detail. So I think as most of us know, glass backsheet comes with a 3.2 mm thick glass as front sheet and a flexible volumic material as backsheet, typically white in color. And glass module has a 2 mm or 2.5 mm thick glass as both front sheet and back sheet. So another important point to note here is that the type of glass that is used in two modules is different. So glass to backsheet uses a tempered glass, whereas glass to glass uses a heat sintered glass. So I will talk about the difference in two glasses and how it can impact the performance of modules in the field in some of the subsequent slides. So this was, I think, covered by Ashish as well, and I think with regard to floating PV, we understand that it does provide some unique conditions that module must be able to withstand for long term. So in my subsequent slides, I will discuss how each of these factors in terms of humidity, stress, which can be caused because of water turbulence, and could be because of high wind loads, weight, and long-term performance, how these factors can impact the performance of two module structures in terms of glass and glass backsheet. So Ashish again, I think gave a very I think important, or raised a very important point with regard to the impact of temperature, on the performance of PV modules. So humidity is considered a critical stress factor for floating application, mainly owing to higher relative humidity over a water body. So relative here is actually an important word here, and denotes that humidity is higher or lower compared to something. So as far as performance of PV module is concerned, the key parameter here is the amount of water vapor or moisture that is present in the air at any given point in time. So if you look at this formula of relative humidity as well, it also depends on this parameter of water vapor content in the air, and also temperature, and that is why it could be significantly different, for two locations with similar water vapor content. So as you can see from this table as well, wherein water vapor content is similar for two different locations with 50% and 70% relative humidity respectively. So it also shows that water vapor content on ground in some locations can be similar to that over water, or over a floating project in other locations, and thus the performance of modules installed on land in humid regions can be taken as a reference for performance in floating projects. So this is an important slide, and we'll spend a minute on that because it's going to give us, or it will help us to understand the impact of humidity or water vapor content on two different model structures. So one of the key perceived benefits of glass backsheet is that unlike conventional backsheets, it doesn't allow any moisture to go inside the module from the backside. So while that is true, the moisture still would gradually go inside the module through the edges of glass structures. Moreover, the encapsulant that is used in the module, would release gases over time as well. And since glass module is nearly impermeable, it won't allow anything, to go outside. The moisture and gases which are released get entrapped inside the module, and over a period of time that would cause delamination and corrosion, which eventually would lead to high power loss. So on the other hand, if you look at the schematic on your right hand side, conventional backsheets are breathable. So in the sense that they would not allow a lot of moisture to go inside, but some moisture still can go inside the module through backsheet and through edges. So that module and also the gases which are being released would be able to be released out from the backsheet because the structure itself or the material itself is breathable in nature. So these elements with regard to moisture and gases or the acids are never entrapped inside the module, and thus they would not come in the contact of metal contacts for long term, which essentially the root cause of why you would have corrosion issues, which eventually would cause faster power loss in the field. So in fact, the phenomenon of moisture entrapment and gases in glass modules and its impact, has already been seen in old generation glass modules, and in fact has been widely reported as well. So the graph on your left-hand side, shows results of studies on fielded modules done by two independent organizations. One is JRC, which is a research organization based in Europe, and second one is NREL, which is more well known, and it's based in USA. So it shows a very high average power loss of 1.3% in old glass modules as compared to 0.5% that one would typically dial in their financial calculations. So pictures on your right hand side show delamination corrosion issues in double glass modules, and as you can see, these issues are prominent at the model edges. This is what I was talking about in the last slide, that the moisture would go inside through the edges, and that is why the issues of delamination and corrosion are more prominent along the edges of glass modules. So here are some more pictures of edge delamination in glass modules, and this is something we have observed in both crystalline silicon and thin film modules. As we all know, with regard to use of glass thin film or technology is more experienced. We do have a lot of cases or installations in India as well, and we have found many such issues of delamination, especially along the edges in thin film modules as well. And in fact, in some of the cases, as you can see, we observed this issue in plants which were not more than 2 years old. So I initially spoke about the use of different glasses into module structures. So this table shows that the tempered glass that is used in glass backsheet module has stronger mechanical properties and thermal shock resistance than heat-sintered glass that's typically used in glass modules. So these tests in terms of performance of PV modules, impact or operation of PV modules in the field, simulate the impact of high wind loads. If you talk about bending strength, that is going to simulate the impact of high wind loads. If you talk about impact test, that's going to simulate the impact of hailstorms, and if we talk about thermal shock, that is going to impact, simulate the impact of hotspots. So as we can see, the results show that glass modules, with weaker glass are more prone to bending and cracking during operation in the field. So that again, we do have data, and these issues of cracking and bending glass modules again have been reported from many operational plants in past few years. And use of weaker glass is one of the key factors why glass is behaving or cracking or bending in the field, as you can see in these pictures. So one of the key requirements of, I think, any project developer or asset owner, is higher generation. And in fact, this is where also a glass backsheet, would perform better as compared to glass. And this is a study which was done by a tier 1 module supplier, but it was done mainly for bifacial modules. But what we understand that the same concept is going to be applicable for monofacial modules. And why a glass backsheet would perform better. And Ashish also mentioned that they do operate at a lower temperature, and this is essentially because a glass radar based backsheet would have a better heat dissipation. So as we know that the cells would absorb photons, and the higher energy photons would be absorbed, but the rest of the energy would be released in the form of heat. So a backsheet would allow this heat to dissipate through it, but since glass is nearly opaque to heat dissipation or heat that has been generated, it would be again entrapped inside the glass modules, and that is going to increase the temperature of the cells. And that is where the glass backsheet would perform better in terms of generation as well. So again, this was touched upon by Ashish in terms of the weight of the module, and this is one of the reasons why I think Orbit favors glass to backsheet, because as you can see, glass to backsheet would be 4 to 10 kgs lighter in terms of weight as compared to glass modules. And as we all know, lower weight does help in reducing manpower cost and structure weight. And this would would reduce the overall installation cost. The actual number would be different for different locations, but you would always see a delta with the use of lighter glass backsheet modules. I think this is going to make a lot more sense for floating applications, because we know that the kind of challenges that one would observe, especially when they have to install modules and when they have to take out modules because of any issue in the modules, it becomes challenging. And also with regard to the cost of floats, because cost of floats would definitely be very high, and higher weight would entail heavier floats, which again in turn would lead to increased capex. So with regard to floating power, and we talk about field performance, so floating PV is still in its early stage, and there's not much field data. But as we discussed earlier, the conditions are not completely alien, and again it was discussed by Ashish as well. And the references and learning can be taken from installation in high humid regions to select modules and bill of materials. So with regard to glass backsheet modules, especially with Tedlar-based backsheets, the modules have already field proven or are already field proven in different climatic conditions, including humid conditions, and exhibited very low power loss even after being in the field for more than 30 years. So especially talking about Tedlar film, which some of you would know is the outer layer material in the backsheets and would be exposed to the climate conditions in the field. So the film has decades of experience in applications that require long-term exposure to severe humidity and saline environment. So as far as backsheet material is concerned, Tedlar is well suited to work in floating application, even if we assume that the floating or the border body would lead to a higher humidity levels as compared to what you would find on a ground mount installation. So when I talk about glass modules, as we've discussed, they're not field proven, and in fact the manufacturers are still playing with the BOM to reduce weight and cost. So still they're trying to find a balance between weight and cost, and that is where we have seen many changes over past 2 to 3 years in terms of the structure of glass modules also. We have already seen issues in terms of high power loss in old generation glass modules, and new generation glass modules are still new, and that is why their long-term performance is still unknown. Having said that, changes in their design in terms of your glass type and glass thickness, and also use of frame or frameless modules and the thickness of frames have led to short-term issues in terms of cracking and delamination, and this is what also we saw earlier. So bottom line is that there's still many unknowns with respect to glass, and that is why there are a lot of risks which are associated with this particular structure about their field performance. So there are in fact many cases as well of fluting applications or fluting projects done with glass based backsheets in China, because China was, I think, the pioneer in terms of installation of fluting projects. And what it shows is that the structure with respect to glass backsheet and especially with based backsheets are really accepted model structure for this application. So this is one of the case studies of one of the projects which was done, I think, in 2017 in Hui. And we have a couple of more cases as well. So this was installed during the same period in Jiangsu province, and this was also installed in 2017, but over a fish pond. And this can be correlated with saline environment, because in a fish pond you would typically find a lot of sand or sorry, a lot of salt in the moisture. So in conclusion, the conditions with regard to floating sites are actually not very different than those at many ground locations, especially in the context of humidity. And this is what we actually saw in some of these slides as well earlier. So in fact, the lower temperature, as Ashish was discussing, at floating sites would tone down many challenges that module would have to withstand in high temperature regions, which you would find in most of the ground mount sites in India. Thus, the reliability performance of modules is not expected to show any significant deviation in floating projects, and references from performance of different modules in ground-mount installations can be considered, while selecting modules for this application as well. So, as we see, while glass modules, are perceived better for this application, mainly because of its impermeable nature. But with regard to their field performance, what we have seen is that they do, have or shown a lot of issues in terms of high power loss and cracking and bending. So on the other hand, glass backsheet modules with Tedlar-based backsheet have more than 30 years of field proven experience, even in humid regions. And what we believe is that they are well suited and also, in fact, accepted for floating applications also. So so this is I have come to the end of my presentation. Again, I would like to thank you for your time, and I would be happy to take your questions in the next session. So over to you, Vinil.
Thanks, Rahul. Friends, we also have Sandeep, who has joined us now, who is also leading module technology at Renewsys. And please start sending us your questions in the Q&A box. We're going to start by addressing the ones that we've already received. So the first question that we have is, what is the earthing system design philosophy in floating?
This is Sandeep. I'm going to take this question actually. See, there are earthing systems. It depends upon the type of installation we are doing in floating. Underground grounding methods are available. Okay, but the number of groundings might increase since the amount of resistance, the ground resistance, depends upon the temperature of the water and so. So if it is shallow, but if it is deep and if it is difficult to earth, then we have to pull the cables to the ground and then do the earthing.
Thanks, Sandeep. In continuation to that, Mohit Pradhan has a question for us. Do you have any reference for submerged cable suppliers?
Means we know people who have installed submerged cables, who is in Kerala. We can give their reference. Right now I do not have, but we'll send him if you have the contact details of him. Thanks.
Mohit, if you can just write to us at renewsysindia.com, and we will connect you over email. Another question that we have from Selma is, well, she says she's an ecologist and would like to know if this technology may cause eutrophication and algal blooming in water bodies, thus harming the natural ecosystem. So if someone from the panel can just take that, please.
Vinay, this point is very well known that can be a concern when we covering the complete water body where sun rays may not reach down the core of the water. So this is what is the challenge. At the same time, if we are covering a partial portion of the particular dam, a particular water body, then there is a possibility that the movement of the ecosystem will be balanced for the plants. So I'm not having very strong answer on that, but I understand this concern. This is already running in the brain of the people when we have to install the floating solar. But definitely, if you are not covering the whole body, you are covering a fraction of body of the water body, then definitely you have not much impact on those things.
Okay. I think Ashish, you had referred to that when you said something about 10% of the surface.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. The next question that we have is from Abhay. He asks, what will be the change in encapsulant properties for a PV panel in floating solar?
Vinay, just I want to understand. This is he want to know the change, like what effect will happen on encapsulant, either what kind of encapsulant you need to choose. So I will answer both. So
yes, if you could just tell us both.
Yeah. Suppose if he understand that what will happen to encapsulant during the floating solar. So it's my very clear answer that nothing will happen to encapsulant as long as if you have right backseat with the module. And yes, if you choose the encapsulant, then as of now for a glass to backseat, EVA is enough for the floating solar. And when people are going to other components, then like maybe glass to glass with flame, etc., then POE be considered because EVA will have certain volatile contents that will be not good for glass to glass. So this is what for the encapsulant.
Thanks, Ashish. The next question is from Mr. Ranadev Dasgupta from Bangladesh. He asks possibilities and barriers of floating solar in fisheries. Rahul, I think you had given us an example of a fish farm where they have a floating solar installation.
Right. Yeah. So Vinil, I won't be having the details. So I can check and get back. But we have heard that in China, a lot of such installations have been done. So I am assuming that it won't be a concern, but I think I have to check and get back.
Okay. Thanks. The second question that Mr. Ranadev has is in small scale floating solar, where are the string inverters housed?
They can be mounted onto the structure itself.
Okay. Thanks, Sandeep. Another question from Mohit. Which standard is to be followed for lightning protection of floating PV plants?
Okay, Vinay, actually there are two things in this. To a certain extent, lightning depends upon the place where we are installing. Okay, means the local guidelines which they are following. The first point. Generally, there are a couple of standards which are used. One is IEC standard, which is IEC 62305. Okay, the other is Fire Protection Authority standard, which is called as NFPA 780. These are the two standards, but basically it is driven by IEC, which can be used, which is IEC 62305.
Okay. And you're saying these are the same that are applicable to standard panels?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sandeep. The next question that we have is someone is requesting if we can give them an estimate of what a floating solar structure will cost.
Vinay, we need to get back on this because this is from the structures point of view. So,
okay. From the modules point of view, Mr. Shiv Kumar Lakshman, could you help us from the modules point of view, an estimate of the difference in the cost?
So thanks, Vinil. Hello, everybody. We are expecting a cost increase of about 1% on standard modules.
Okay. Thank you. The next question, and
Vinil?
Yes?
Yeah, your question, Vinil.
what is the thermal loss factor that should be considered in PV SIST for a floating solar plant simulation?
So the loss factors precisely depends upon the place we are installing. We cannot consider a static figure. Okay, that is the major issue in considering the thermal loss factors. We cannot have a static figure. But one thing is for sure, the plants which are installed on floating are going to have less impact of thermal loss factors. But again, it depends upon the place where it is installed, what is the region, how far is it from the equator, and all those stuff will impact these loss factors.
Okay, thanks, Sandeep. The next question is from Bhuvanesh. Has hydrolysis or moisture ingress through backsheet been analyzed and optimized for floating solar?
Yeah.
Rahul,
Go ahead.
Rahul, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a test which is used, to measure the WVTR, which is water vapor transmission rate of different backsheets, and typically it's going to be around 2 gram per square meter, per day, and it can be fine-tuned as well. It can be reduced or it can be increased, but for floating, what we see is that should not be very low, and that is the issue with glass class, because since glass class structure has a very low WVTR, it tends to have the other issues in terms of moisture entrapment and entrapment of gases. So floating as well, again, as we discussed, that since humidity is not a very big factor, does not have to change change WVTR a lot. It can be, you can define it to be less than or between 1 to 2 gram for floating, but it should not be very low in the sense that it should not be less than 0.5 gram per square meter per day.
Thanks, Rahul. And Ashish, for the same panel, Mr. Bhuvanesh asks, what about encapsulant degradation?
See, as already I think Rahul has answered, but just I want to add it from further, that the temperature of the floating locations are lower than the normal location, and that makes impact of humidity very mild. Because if temperature is more and RH is more, then that is called damp condition, where that is the highest acceleration of degradation happens. So if you take worst case also, since the EBA, glass and backsheet, these three components are like matched component for breathability of the module, where moisture goes inside and comes outside. This is a kind of balanced system, so that is stable. So as long as for EBA, if we look for degradation or any encapsulant degradation, it will happen only when your edge sealing is not proper, and if edge sealing is not proper, your framing is not effective. In that sense, the moisture can ingress via the edges and can cause delamination. But if the framing and the sealing has been done properly, then there is no danger for encapsulant, provided appropriate thickness and type of backsheet has been used.
Okay, thanks, Ashish. Mr. Dattatreya is asking what certification needs to be done or to be checked for the float.
For the floats, I don't have much understanding on certification part, but they generally carry certain certification that is for marine environment. Generally, the float get tested for marine environment as per marine standards. The numbers I don't remember, sorry, but there is no any standard for IEC or something that is governed by the solar bodies. But yes, the floats get tested with respect to marine environment test. There are certain marine standards that they follow. And in addition to that, certain tests they do on pressure buildup and pressure sustainability. That is also based on the customized test for that float. So it not comes to anything here from IEC or somewhere else. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Another question that we have is there a comparative difference in energy production with respect to ground-mounted solar panels?
I think Rahul or Sandeep, you can take this. Yeah.
Vinal, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yes, Sandeep. Is there a comparative difference in the energy production, that is the output of floating PV versus ground-mounted panels?
Okay. I think Rahul had covered in his presentation. Actually, there is a difference in energy production. Floating solar projects tend to generate slightly more, around 2 to 3%, and there are a lot of studies available on this. generation point of view, when you compare a floating solar with a ground mount or a rooftop, any of those projects, yes, it is for sure that floating solars are producing higher by around 2-3%.
Yeah, I'd just like to add on that. So in terms of what I did show was more around the comparison between glass and glass backsheet for the same location. And so yes, floating generally, if you compare, apple to apple, would produce higher output power. But if you talk about the new generation technologies like bifacial, which are more efficient on ground as compared to over water body, you might not see a lot of difference in terms of the overall output generation, because if you're going to use bifacial on ground mount versus bifacial on floating, the ground mount would generate higher output power because of more bifacial gain, and floating would generate slightly higher output power because of lower temperature. So overall, based on technology, I think it has to be analyzed. But and with bifacial, if you go with that, which is is a pretty is something which a lot of people are looking at, the gain might not be that much a difference.
Thanks, Rahul. Thanks, Sandeep. The next question that we have from Kishore, he's basically asking about floating solar installations in the sea. How flexible do floats and cables have to be to survive various tides and waves?
Actually, the option of floating solar on oceans is not considered seriously at this point of time, because if you see the capacities, what we can install on the normal water itself, like the reservoirs and all the stuff itself, is in terawatts. Okay, that is one point. And second thing, exact means cable is okay, cable is not a problem. But when you come to the floats, the flexibility of the floats and all the stuff need to be studied. We can get back to on that question.
Okay. What about lakes then, Sandeep? And
Lakes
what
are-
also, sorry, just to add to that, about cleaning these floating solar installations. How often do they have to be cleaned if they're in a lake?
See, it is not on, precisely speaking, it is not based on a lake or a reservoir where is it installed. It depends upon the amount of dirt accumulations what we have. Similar to a ground mounted system, it again depends upon the location to location. Precisely, we cannot determine this is the frequency within which you have to clean, but it is always advantageous to clean the cleaning frequency to be higher.
Okay, thanks. We have another question here from Upasina. I hope I've pronounced your name correctly. What's the effect of chemical composition of the water body, like salinity or iron content, on the floats and on the panels in a floating solar installation?
Generally, the water analysis is the one of the important work that people do before installing the float and making the plan of the solar plant. So based on the water analysis and the water content, the float design and float material has to be chosen. So generally, this is done by the party who is going to install the solar plants, and they do a water test, and based on that, they make the float design and float kind of material. Especially for the normal water, what we have in our lakes and like ponds, the normal SDPE float they use. But definitely, if they have like a very salty, very high content of corrosive material in that water, then they choose a different additive manufacturing that generally gives resistance to particular floats. It is completely on the compounding or formulation of the floats, like what to choose for what kind of water environment. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. The next question that we have is about PID. Are floating power plants more likely to be subject to PID than ground-mounted plants?
Nowadays, whatever the models you are getting are PID free only. Okay, whether it is on a floating or whether it is on ground mounted, does not matter. There is no PID loss we have to consider. PID is not at all allowed, because the effect of PID is very high on these modules and the performance. So modules are PID free, that's for sure. And generally speaking, yes, PID effect on floating would be higher because the dampness of the surface would be higher in case of a floating application.
Okay, okay,
I would just like to add here. So yes, I agree with Sandeep. For monofacial, PID will not be a challenge. But if again anybody is looking to install bifacial, and we have seen in the past that some installation were done with bifacial, and especially again with respect to glass, one has to be cautious because bifacial, has a poor or weaker, I would say, PID resistance as compared to front side of the cell. So there you have to be cautious in terms of which model structure you're going to go with in case you're deciding to use bifacial for a floating project.
Okay, thanks Rahul, thanks Sandeep. The next question that we have is from Mohit, who's asking about the O&M cost of a floating solar plant versus a ground mounted plant. Is it significantly higher or is it similar?
Sorry, Vinal, I don't have any idea on that. It is higher, but how much higher, we don't know. It's higher definitely. But how much higher, that quantification, we don't have any data on that.
Okay, thanks. Another question again from Mohit is about inverter stations. If the inverter station is proposed to be above the water body, which type of transformer needs to be considered, oil type or dry type?
I think, Vinal, here a dry type is so far has been used in floating solar. Yeah. Yeah, dry type. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Ashish. And the last question that we have here is what is the max tilt angle that is allowed for floating solar, if there is such a thing?
Vinal, actually, the tilt angle again depends upon the place where you are installing, right? So, but one thing you have to keep consider here is the wind speeds and all those stuff. Because if the tilt angle is more, the expense on structures, the amount of wind loads what you have to consider will increase. But if you ask me specifically, is there a limit? No, there is no limit on the tilt angle what we have to install.
Okay, okay, thanks. Thanks, Sandeep. Anything that you would like to say in conclusion regarding floating solar? I would in fact open it up to all four of you all. If you all would like to add something, we are, I think, done with questions. So if you all have any concluding statements, Rahul?
So yeah, Vinil, I just would like to say that I think it was great to have all the questions and pretty pertinent questions. In case anybody has any question, they can always connect with us, and if they want to discuss anything in more detail, we would be open to do that. The only thing is that especially with regard to a selection of modules is going to be critical because we have had a lot of queries in terms of which model to use, and you talk about glass backsheet, which have been used, for this for PV since last 30 years. Glass to glass is still pretty new, and that is why one has to be cautious. One has to have enough, field data before they can go with something which is not field proven. So on this, we do have a lot of data because of the time constraint. We could not share everything, but again, if you have an interest in terms of understanding more about the modules, what kind of BOM. Again, with regard to backsheet as well, for floating application, you might look at a slightly different BOM as well to ensure that the unique conditions that you would find in floating, are taken care of. We would be happy to discuss that with you. So anytime you want to discuss that, you can always approach us, and we can schedule more time with you.
Thanks, Rahul. Sandeep, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, most of the questions what have been asked regarding the floats, regarding the O&M expenditures and all those stuff, which we are not able to answer, please do write to us. Okay, we can get back to you because that is not our core domain, so we were not able to. But please do write to us regarding this. We'll get back to you.
We have also just shared our email ID that you can write to us at. Renewsys at renewsysindia.com, whether it is O&M, whether it is float, cleaning, whatever it is. And we'll try our best to get back to you at the earliest possible. Mr. Shivkumar Lakshman, anything that you would like to add, sir?
Yeah, first I'd like to thank everybody for participating in this webinar. I would like to just make a statement. See, there's been a bit of a misconception. All along, people have been talking about glass modules. The misconception was that because it's going to be on a water body, glass works better. But that's not the reality. Glass is not established as yet after being there for a few years. If you look at the module in terms of weight and in terms of handling, it is much better to go for a glass backsheet. And we have DuPont, we have Teller as a backsheet, which is well established, been in the market for more than 30 odd years. And I think the product selection is very important, as Rahul mentioned. It's extremely important that you go for the right module when you're looking at a floating solar installation. And that would come from the kind of R&D that has gone in for all the components that are going to be used in the module. So I request everybody to look at this product, a glass backsheet, as a good replacement for a glass module in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ashish, if you just wrap this up.
I think there is some echo from my side. The same thing what you sir told. I'm here, and we should not worry about the humidity. The glass to backsheet is the key module that is good for this floating solar. It has been proven. And for encapsulant side, still EVA is enough to have to meet the requirement of floating solar. So the existing module technology what we have that is suitable for the floating solar. And regarding floats, etc., these are the polymeric materials. So still things are hazy. It's not very clear that what is the life of float or how long the float will run, because the float and everything is now driven by marine standards. And as long as marine standards concerned, they are for the ships, and what life a ship carry, I think similar life the floats can carry if they are passing the marine standards for sustaining their life in the seawater. This is what finally I can say. Yeah. Thank you, Vinay.
Thanks, Ashish. Thank you all for joining us. Please do share your feedback with us. I have put up the link and I've also shared our email ID. So please feel free to write to us in case there was a query that you had and we couldn't answer. We'll do our best to get back to you. We'll be putting the presentation as well as the recording of this webinar up on our website. And all of you who registered and participated today will also receive the same via email from us. So thank you all once again. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.